Outreach, the podcast. Outreach, recovery, discussing addiction openly. Mental health counseling. Outreach, the podcast.
This is wonderful. So, as you know, I'm Isaiah Coles. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Outreach. And I came from the medical background.
Okay.
And then when the opiate epidemic took it to the head, I got an opportunity to go from the physical therapy and sports medicine realm, and occupational health, to go work for Ashley Addiction Treatment to really help market and develop their pain recovery program, which is an inpatient program that people stay when they have suffering from opiate addiction from chronic pain. So anybody, anywhere from people with fibromyalgia or people with chronic back pain who got kind of hooked on painkillers, we would treat them and find alternative means outside of opiates for them to deal with pain, so that they wouldn't reduce the chance of them becoming addicted. So that's how I came into this field.
Okay.
And then I owned my own clinics and sold them. So I obviously the business background was already there. So and I've worked for Acadia, I've worked for Tranquility Woods, residential. And of course, Acadia's humongous. Acadia's we had 550 beds.
There's a lot.
So all levels of care. That's really helped me define my understanding of mental health and addiction by working with folks like Ashley and Acadia and Tranquility Woods. 3 great programs that I consider those programs partners with Outreach. So we really started as a cash-based company, we were set up by physicians who weren't psychiatric specialists. They were, pain doctors, anesthesiologists who would see a lot of people come through their clinic who had high doses of opiates, and then I wanted to prescribe those high doses of opiates and used Suboxone as an alternative, which is much safer form of treatment than using people with 100 morphine equivalent dose medication. It's much safer. So, and that's how Outreach was developed. And then the owners found me at Tranquility Woods when I was working there. We had a good relationship together, and that's when I became a chief operating officer. And so our mission has been to establish a continuum of care for patients that traditionally has not been met, which is the outpatient and outpatient Suboxone scope of care, as well as combining that with the primary care needs the patient has. So that's where the OBOT, that's where the term OBOT comes from, because technically we are a bunch of primary care facilities.
Yeah.
Or multidisciplinary medical facilities that are treating addiction patients. And from that was our basis, but now I'm bringing on folks like yourself. Now we're expanding the continuum of care, going into mental health therapies, mental health talk therapies, psychiatric medication management, and eventually we will have a full comprehensive continuum of care for our patients. Some of our patients, especially like folks who are unemployed or homeless, may not have a primary care physician. They may not have, or they may be getting Suboxone, but they don't have the talk therapies. And many of them don't have transportation, so it's hard to get around to all of those different providers. And so having it in one place really makes it a big difference for our patients. And that's why we're bringing everybody together now, and we're constantly building it. So
wraparound services.
Yes. So I'm glad you're part of the team. We've been looking for a strong mental health therapist and addiction therapist in Virginia. And you are the very first one. And we are so excited to have you in Winchester. And we can't wait to see how we grow in Virginia, as well as, especially if we become LCPC or LPC, to other states. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you ended up at Outreach.
So originally, I was a teacher.
Okay, I was a teacher too.
So I went to school for teaching.
Okay.
Got to the end of it and realized, oh man, this is not what I wanted. I love teaching. I love the students. I did high school, and then I realized, the bureaucracy of the way that the education system was set up just wasn't conducive for actually teaching kids. But I also realized that I had a knack for helping those kids. And you see so many kids in disparity. You're seeing, kids that are really under taking like the underprivileged, undercared for kids, and you're just heartbroken about it. And I was like, I want to do something about that.
Okay.
So then I went to school for that at Old Dominion.
Oh,
so
yes.
So I decided I was going to go to school for human services.
Okay.
Went to school there with the goal of becoming an adoption and foster care worker.
Okay.
So that's what I wanted to do. And then my last year there, I couldn't get an internship. I actually waited almost a year for an internship because I would get them on board, but then you know how DSS is, people shifting so much, and then they'd be like, we're sorry, we don't have anybody to supervise you, so maybe next time. And so I reached out to Warren Coalition, and they're a nonprofit, and they were like, yeah, we can probably get you up with stuff. Do you mind working in prisons and jails? And I'm like, sure. All right, let's do it. Let's rock this out. And then that's when I met people that I realized, wow, this population is actually deserving of our care. Like, we think about, you know, prisons and jails, and people instantly go, oh, clutch your pearls, hide your purse.
Yeah.
But, you know, no, that's not the case. So many times it's just people that have a substance use disorder that are going to jail and prison. And then you're like, okay, well, why are they doing that? And the answer always comes back to poverty and trauma. Like, people just aren't getting the care that they need. And so from doing that, that's when I was like, heart feels. I'm gonna go help these people. Like, these people need help too. There's plenty of people out there that are like, save the children. I'm not saying that that is not a very righteous thing to be going for sure. But if we're not addressing this problem and really getting into all of this, then how are we going to keep people out of jails and prisons? How are we going to keep pushing for change and really helping people? Because all this has been doing, I mean, if you look at the numbers, we just keep getting worse and worse. Like, there are not less people addicted because we were like, we're going to go hard on that, you know, when Nixon made all of those rules and
That's
stuff,
right.
you
Make
know?
it real tough. Yes. Punishment doesn't work, does it?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's the other thing that I noticed, is that there would be people that they were just such good people. I met so many really sweet people, and they would come in, they'd leave, and we'd set them up, you know, we're like, okay, we helped you get housing and a job, and you're going to do better, and I know this. And then they come back in a week or 2 weeks, and I'm like, what happened? And they're like, same old thing, you know?
Yes,
like, I never dealt with, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why do I have this addiction problem? And so being able to be the person that helps facilitate somebody to be different, to find that change in themselves. Not that I'm saying this is wrong and this is what's wrong with you, but hey, you think there's a different way to look at this? Why are we here? What led you here? How can we make life better for you? And do you want that? Like, for me, the thing that I always tell patients when I first see them is, I am not going to tell you that anything you're doing is wrong, because you're an adult. This is your life. You do you. But if you want to change, I'm here for that. If you don't want to change, I'm still here for you.
That's right.
You know?
That's the key. You're still here for them, because readiness for change is extremely important. It comes to treating any condition. You know, as a therapist, many times I would say, okay, in order for your knee to get better, you got to do your exercises. And some people really didn't take it seriously at first until the knee didn't get any better, and then they may start their exercise or have to go back and get another surgery done. That's very defining on the physical side. How do you define that? How do you define that key outcome or that key measure to let you know somebody's is or not ready to change?
So it's usually something that I'm pretty good at picking up there at the beginning, because I approach everything from a very honest and upfront kind of way. And I find that whenever you do that with people, they'll mirror that. You know, if you act very, you know, inward and reserved and make them feel like they're less than, because that's what you're doing when you're doing counseling with people or you're working with people, is they're on the other side of the table and you're making them feel like they're less than. So I approach everything very calm and, you know, like I said, honest with them. And I'll, you know, where are you? How do you feel about this? How is this for you right now? And sometimes I will get people that'll be like, I'm totally about this, and I'm gonna just keep doing heroin 6 times a day until I die. And I'm like, well, why are you here then, friend? You know,
Yes,
what,
right.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are you hoping to get from me?
Yeah.
And then I have those people that are like, well, I mean, if there was something else, but I don't know anything else. And I'm like, that's great, because I can show you something else. Like, we can make something else happen with this. You don't have to live in this box.
How often, I know it's kind of hard to give a percentage of how people are ready, how many people are ready when you meet them compared to how people are not.
Few.
Yes. But I would say that's across the board in all society, whether it's obesity, whether it's smoking, whether it's, money or gambling. So many people feel that they're okay where they're at. How do you challenge that?
So it's always going to be one of those things of, do you like where you're at? That's how I always start that. Do you like where you're at? So we'll have people that'll talk to me sometimes and they don't even know what I do for a living. And they'll just, be talking about their problems. And I'm like, do you like where you're at then? And most of the time, no, not really. I'm struggling with, making my bills and things like this. I'm like, oh, well, what do you think you could do differently? And then they kind of give you this look like you're kind of, being a stink to them for a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, I'm helping you. Like, let's challenge this. Let's go through this.
Okay.
And so the more that you're kind of pushing some of those different thoughts around, you kind of see it swirling around up in there where they're really thinking about what you're saying. And it won't be that time. It won't be the next time. It might start the time after that where they're like, hey, I thought about what you were saying. I'm like, yeah. What did you think about that? And so I kind of noticed that the more that I challenge what they're thinking without being abrasive, without being aggressive, it's the more that they're going to have that just swirl around a little more. Kind of like that fine wine, we're going to swirl it around the glass and smell it a little bit before we take that sip. Well, and I think that's what we see with a lot of people that are trying to make change is scary. We're creatures of habit. Like, we are made to have a habit and follow it. That's how we've survived so long. So changing that and challenging, that's hard.
Well, I can definitely tell you have a kind soul and you have a very welcoming approach. Are there times at the end of the day where you say, you know what, I just can't do this? Or how do you deal with dealing with the folks who really give you a hard time today? What self-care techniques do you use to kind of stay so bright and happy? Because you seem so, your positivity is so, it wakes the room up, the positivity. So tell me, what do you do to stay so positive?
So I think that a lot of life is, how do you view it? And that's really what it is. So if I looked at everything and I was like, I don't like this paper, I just don't like it, everything about that paper is crap, then all I'm going to see is bad paper, It's only ever going to be that because that's what I have in my head about it. But if I decide that it's, this is great, I love the quality of this, it's going to be fantastic, then I'm giving it the opportunity to be that. So I kind of look at the whole world that way of, like, with people, I hear a lot of times we have a very judgmental society. We have a very judgmental view a lot of times with people. I mean, it's natural. It's part of how we survive, but also it's kind of sad where people will be like, oh, well, they did this, so obviously. I'm like, no, that doesn't make somebody a bad person. That just makes them have gone through things that you don't understand. So I just go at everything with this place of compassion, and that if I went through what that person went through, would I really have gone a lot differently? Like, it just depends.
That's right.
And you can't say because you weren't there.
You weren't in that. Yep. How we react to stimuli varies from person to person.
Exactly.
And how the tools and the resources you have to handle it. Now, that kind of sounds like a modality called mindfulness. Is that what you were talking about just now?
So that paying attention and just living in the now, that really helps a lot. I'm definitely the kind of person that, for me, there will definitely be days where I'm like, I feel so drained and I feel like I'm just crushing right now because obviously secondary trauma, and taking that on from other people and them talking to me about really horrible things. And I just kind of go outside and I will pay attention to the world around me. So, like, trees. Have you ever looked at a tree and thought, man, that tree's crap? That tree's so not perfect, you know? Because when we're kids, how do we draw trees? We draw that straight line, and then we have the little lines crossing off from the sides, and it's so pristine. But look at a tree, if we really look at it, it's not perfect. It's so bumpy and there's different pieces on it. It's sometimes missing things and maybe a spot will have blight and things like that. But it's so beautiful, just
That's
in
a
the
good
way
point.
that it is, you know?
Yeah, especially if like you're doing a hike and you could have some old decrepit tree that it's falling off, but it adds to the beauty of the environment.
Exactly.
You know?
And people are like that, and the world is like that if we just take that time to really breathe it in and take it, you know?
So mindfulness is obviously one modality that you use a lot in your treatment process. How about like CBT or DBT? Do you use any of those modalities?
I'm certified for both of those,
Okay.
and I also have a certification for EMDR.
EMDR. Okay.
yeah,
So you're doing a lot
so-
with trauma then too.
Yes, so
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of different trauma certifications.
Okay.
I love learning about trauma. So obviously when I was working in jails and things, that's, again, the basis of so many things. I feel like most of our society, the problems all stem from, we've got poverty, and then poverty creates trauma, which then creates, you know, and it's just a trickle down. So learning about those traumas and being able to help people and understand how to deal with those and how to move forward and how to cope with that is just so beautiful to me, because seeing somebody go from a place of like that inward shell and I can't anymore, I quit, I can't, to like blossoming and seeing the world from that other perspective of, wow, it's okay that it's not perfect, and it's okay that it's, you know, not the way that I envisioned, but it's beautiful just the way that it is.
So we've talked a little bit about one side of our population, which is obviously folks who have economically and socially maybe a little bit more dealing with a lot more difficult situations.
Yes.
But how do we connect with somebody, say, that may be working, may have a six-figure income, but still may have those same traumas or life experiences that challenge them? How do we deal with that patient population?
So I have it on the back of my car. Trauma isn't linear.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what that means for people that don't know is that I can see somebody who has been raped and been beaten their whole lives, and that trauma is so deep and so real, but so is somebody who grew up in a home with loving parents and had a great life to that person that had that initial trauma that I just spoke of. But maybe they also had, you know, emotionally abusive friends, or they grew up in a place where they're a person of color and they're with mostly, you know, people that aren't of color. Or maybe that person comes from a really wealthy family and they have these really extreme expectations of perfectionism, and you're not good enough because of where you are. Why aren't you achieving more? I mean, there's so many traumas.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
explaining that to people whenever we talk to them, you know, trauma isn't linear.
Yeah.
Trauma is based on you and what you've been through. What's your lived experience?
I
and how
like
does
that.
feel?
Trauma isn't linear. I may have to put that somewhere on the trauma isn't linear. That needs to be on our website somewhere, because it's so true.
I have that
Trauma
on the
knows no
window in my
color.
office.
Trauma knows no color, no race, no height, no age, no
Exactly.
no language. You know, and I think we have a team that recognizes that. Since you've been at Outreach, tell us kind of what are the good things that stand out to you so far from your experience about the patient population, the people you work with, you know, anything you would like to, you know, what are some of the things that you like seeing so far?
So I love that we have wraparound services. That is so pivotal. Okay, I just can't express how wonderful that is, and I love that we're growing in that direction. So when I was looking for a new job and I was trying to pick where I wanted to work, I did have a lot of opportunity, and I chose to come here because you had wraparound services, and I saw the things that you all were doing and the positive trajectory that I could see that going in. Yeah. So that was my big selling point for me as a clinician wanting to come there. But then also for our patients, that's amazing, because we also are offering stuff. We're not just treating opiates. We treat all of these things,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
We do provide that psychiatric care. We do provide that counseling. We provide all of those things. And if we don't have it, hey, I know somewhere else that I can help you
That's
get that.
great.
So that you're getting all of those things. And I love that it's so well-rounded and has that. I also really love that everybody that I've worked with so far is very friendly, very personable, and it's really nice to have that kind of communication community to talk to and be around. So that's been wonderful. Like the office manager at the Winchester location, Jen, is fantastic.
Oh,
I
yes,
love
yes.
her.
Jen is wonderful.
I love
Kendra is
working with
wonderful. I
her.
mean,
Kendra is amazing
everybody,
as well,
everybody
yeah.
in Virginia. I mean, this is, this is one of my bright shining stars. Unfortunately, we're so new to Virginia. And we're so happy to have you here because we are so new compared to Maryland and New Jersey. We've been there much longer. So when it comes to, being a therapist or a counselor, tell me, when you're dealing with an alcohol patient that's got PTSD compared to, you say, a cocaine use disorder patient that's got chronic depression, and they haven't had good provider experiences in the past. Because so many times we assume this because somebody has a license that they actually really care about the individual. How do you deal with a patient that may have had bad outcomes before and to get them to believe in you now?
So I just had this week,
Okay.
actually. So I had a male patient, and as I'm sure you're aware, most of the time male patients are the most resistant to treatment. And he was telling me about, I've done this before, it never works, nobody ever is there, and you can do these things. And I was like, okay, well, tell me about that. I'd love to hear about it. How did that go? And I'm interested, and I show them that I'm genuinely interested and I'm genuinely here for you. And he ended up being in my office for about an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, that's great.
Exactly.
That's great
and
because
didn't even notice that he had
bad
done
treatment
that.
can be traumatic as well. And
Exactly.
can contribute to the what they're going through.
Because then they don't want to seek
They
out
don't
that
wanna-
help because
exactly.
they're like, well, it didn't work before. And then by the end of it, he had told me a lot of things that were really deep things that I could tell he had been holding on to and hadn't shared. And I was like, I really appreciate that you shared that with me. I really love that you felt comfortable enough to do that with me. How do you feel about coming back in a week or two? And he was like, yeah, I think I could do that. And we set up an appointment again. And it's really just about that. I think that to be a good clinician, you have to meet them at least halfway. And I find that a lot of times, like I go to therapy. I think anybody that is a clinician should have therapy at least once a month to deal with all of the, that trauma that you're picking up from others. But I've had clinicians where I'm like, I can tell that you don't really care about what I'm saying, so I appreciate this, but I'm gonna find somebody else. Thanks. So what I try to do is make sure that whenever I have those patients and they're sitting in front of me, that I do care, that I am showing them that I care, that they do matter. And in my office, like I said on my window, I have that healing isn't linear, and I have really big written like "you matter" on the window and things like that, because I want people to know that it's a environment where you're safe, and I do care, and I want you here. We want you here. My office also has all kinds of plants in it and everything, where I've made it feel very comfortable.
Yes.
And so I want all of people to feel like this is a good spot. This is a place where people want you to be here. We want you here. I want to know about you.
Yes.
And I care about you.
Yes.
And I've found that I've not had, in my experience thus far, knock on pretend wood here, but I've never had a patient tell me that they didn't like talking to me, that they didn't want to have that after that first session. They always come in at the first session and I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I found that if I just go meet them halfway, and I'm like, hey, that's fine. Let's talk about something else. Or I'll just randomly talk about silly things in the world or something, and they'll engage. And I find something that seems like they want to talk about, and then you just slowly kind of reel it in a little, and we redirect the conversation just a little like we do. And then we're talking about things and we're in stuff. And before they recognize that we're in the middle of these deep conversations, they're going, what? One of my favorite patients told me Jedi mind trick.
I can definitely tell that because you have a very relaxing demeanor. You really, whenever you do these and you meet, and I haven't met you very long, and you connect, you can feel somebody's kindness and warmth come through. And I think that's real big in what we do when we try to hire. I know Michelle does, is that warmth and kindness. And I can definitely see how patients could relate to you. So tell me, can you give me a case study or a story about somebody who's come in and they may have had a really tough scenario, and tell us about where they are now after you've been working. It doesn't have to be an outreach. It could be any facility that you may have worked at in the past.
Okay. So one specific comes to mind from when I was working in the incarcerated population. He had been a person who was in charge of a gang, and had been doing that for a very, very long time. He was an older gentleman, very gruff and rough, and got in fights a lot. And if people looked at him wrong, he'd punch him in the face to show him, like he was in charge and he was the boss, and, very rough exterior. And then we had him in therapy with us and doing the different kinds of classes. So we did like anger management and things along those lines, coping skill classes and stuff while we were there. And it was so beautiful to see this man who was very detached, it felt like, from people in a way that, I can't let people in, because what happens if I let them in? They can hurt me, they can get into all of this, and then I lose my reputation and all of these things, right? This man is so wonderful. We still get letters from him. I remember one time in one of the sessions after he'd been with us for, probably 6 months, he put his hands on the table, face up, open, and he says, I'm ready to take in what you have to give me.
Oh, that's great.
And I was like, yeah? And he goes, yeah, I read this thing today where if you sit your hands with your palms open like this, it sets your body up for wanting to take the information that other people have to give you. And I really want to do that. Okay. And I was like, wow, that is so beautiful. And he had told us about how there were people that had been, messing with him and saying some things that he normally probably would have really injured them in a nice way of saying that. That he said that they weren't worth it and he wasn't going to go after them because why? That he mattered more, that he was enough, that he didn't need to care about that. And he actually took a bunch of new people in under his wing in the jails and now in prison, where he's helping people that wouldn't have gotten any support otherwise to find sobriety and find a purpose. So it is just the most beautiful thing. Like, I love that we saw like that initial to this ending point of now he went from really not having any true connectivity, because you couldn't be your true self, and because you had to be this bad guy,
Soft, yes.
Bad guy, I say in air quotes, obviously, but to being able to be authentic and have real authentic connections
and relationships,
and feel good about yourself, that was the best part, is I matter enough. That was the part that I was like,
helping people.
I'm tearing up a little bit just talking about it, because
you turn somebody from somebody who's destructive to somebody now who builds, develops, and spreads love.
Yeah,
and that's got to be a wonderful feeling.
It was so beautiful. Like I said, I'm like tearing up over it, because it was just, it's so beautiful to have somebody who originally was like, I don't matter.
So hard. Yes.
Yeah, I know, like seeing like here,
That's
all
okay.
the tears. But having him say things like, I matter, I'm enough, that I don't need to do that. And I was just like, oh my God, you do matter. I'm so happy that you believe it.
Well, that is true. And what we see, especially, doing this for so long, is that our folks are really successful if we can give them a reason to live. Family, friends, job, children, they get over that hump. And it may take 10 years for them to get there. But if they can get those things, they have a reason to live. That means so important. Because somehow between being a little kid, a little girl, a little boy, you become disconnected to life, where you have nothing to live for this 20, 30-year period.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it goes back to when you're a child again, when you're happy and you loved your mom and parents, and you had the world was yours mentality when you're a child. Because when you're 4 years old, you don't look at things, like, oh, everybody's bad or everybody's evil. And then you turn it around when you get something to live for now. That is the amazing transition we see people make. Now, let's talk a little bit about a lottery ticket. I am going to give you a $5 billion lottery ticket to use only on the mental health industry. Tell us, what would you do with that $5 billion?
So if I had $5 billion to improve mental health for, we'll just say the United States for now, okay? I would start with poverty. That was where I would 100% start. So enriching those people's lives and ensuring that from a young age, people are getting that support and that love and that care that they aren't getting now. So that would be, going into inner city places where we have people that are coming from poverty and from those poorer places, going out into Appalachia and things like that, okay? And helping give those people a higher standard of living, okay? So that you're not worried about, oh my God, I can't feed my kids, because how many children are in poverty right now?
Yes.
And we found that poverty is the #1 catalyst for emotional abuse, for physical abuse, and for later substance misuse, okay? Because if I can throw my problems over here and, drink them away, use this away, then I don't have to deal with anything else that's really going on in my life. So if we start tackling that small problem, we're going to change that mental health. We're going to change all of those things, but also then having supports through school, I don't know how many people are aware that, school counselors don't actually do any counseling.
Yeah, that's right. Most people don't realize it. They refer you out to somewhere else to get the counseling many times.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're just there to help you get your classes
that's right.
in order.
Yeah, because just one of them for 300 students. Yes.
Exactly.
So would you say we need more counselors in the schools? Okay.
So we need, we need counselors in schools. We need to be teaching connectivity. So that is the biggest issue that we're seeing with adults, right? Is that we have these tunnel blinders and we're on our social media and things like that. But how many times do we sit down with people and connect and feel something for other people? So creating programs that help connect people and get people engaging again and teaching people how to engage properly. Because that's the other thing, is that with a lot of kids, we're seeing they don't know how. I don't know how to appropriately engage with other people, and healthy connectivity,
Healthy connections, yes.
Exactly.
That's when those bad connections come into play, like gangs.
Exactly.
What do you think about family therapies?
Exactly. So then that's kind of extending that out a little bit more. Like I said, where we're kind of starting to tackle the root, but we're also building branches off of it. And so, yeah, absolutely. Because if we teach parents, that's the next part. Because if we can't just help kids, because the parents need help from their emotional traumas and abuse, right? Because if we just are going, oh, kids, that's where earlier I was saying, kids are a wonderful thing, but if we're not helping parents, the parents are going to keep dumping that shame and guilt down onto the kids, and it's going to just keep growing it.
Gotta help the parents, because the parents need therapy too. I think we always forget about that.
Exactly.
We always think about the kids need the counseling. Many times the parents need the counseling too.
Exactly.
Yes.
So then also in our country, I would definitely do tax breaks and things for organizations to provide an on-site person to do therapy, or giving your people more time to go to therapy.
Yeah, more time. That is, yes. When we think about the doctor, the primary care visit, but we don't think about the actual mental health visits.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people may have shame to discuss it. I don't think anybody's most people will say, you know what, I gotta go get my blood pressure checked today. They'll tell everybody, oh, I'll get my blood pressure checked. But how many people will say, I need to go get my therapy appointment today?
And I agree with that 100%. So when I first started in this field, I come from a family where on one side of my family is poverty. Both sides really, but white poverty. And on the other side, Appalachia, all that fun. And then on the other side is Hispanic and poverty. And so both of those people are when it comes to mental health.
Yes, very
and
much
so we see a lot of that too. I've talked to a lot of African American communities, and they really shame that. It's go to Jesus. Jesus will help you.
Go to church. Yes.
And it's no, that's not gonna help.
Yes.
So teaching that it can go hand in hand, and that we have, we can do religious therapy. We have that too, but being able to learn again those healthy parts, as a young child, we can start teaching that, but then with adults too, teaching how do we communicate with each other in a healthy way? What's healthy? What's safe? What's going to keep building that feeling of safety? Because if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs when we're talking about emotional health, safety is the bottom one. If we don't have safety, we can't grow.
If you don't feel safe, then everything else, it's about survival.
Exactly.
Try to survive first. So you've used up $4 billion of your $5 billion. You got $1 billion left, and that's just talk about the changes you would like to see in the psychological community. What changes? What would you do with that $1 billion? With that, what's left over, just to help the psychiatric and psychological communities?
I think if we could try to figure out a way to make education more affordable.
Hey, that's a good one. Yes.
Because
yes.
I want to be a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But I can't afford to
Yeah,
be a
that's right.
psychiatrist in this country.
That's right.
I'm going to have to go to Germany
Yes,
to do
right.
it.
And we have a shortage of psychiatrists, don't we?
Exactly. There's such a shortage. There's
Yes.
such a shortage in all mental health. In all mental health. And it's because people can't afford to do it.
Yes.
So if we could address that part, because people initially were saying that, oh, there's just not, the workforce isn't here. Well, why isn't your workforce
That's right.
here?
Because you got to get a master's, and then you got to work for free for several years, or work for a lower salary for a long period of time.
Exactly.
You're pretty much doing the same amount of work like a fellowship of MD would do, but you don't get the reimbursement, obviously.
Exactly. And then also addressing the costs of our medical, everything in the medical field is so absorbent. As far as the costs go.
Yes.
I have a friend that works in hospitals, and he was showing me how much things cost for hospitals to get. Tape. Medical tape. You can go to CVS and get it for like $3.
Yeah.
It's $50 for a hospital to get that. What? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And it's all of that bureaucracy and stuff. So if we could find a way to just kind of, can we scoot this out of the way, friends? And all of us come together and say, hey, this is a real problem. If we could start addressing these little things all together as a society, how beautiful and how much change could we really make? And I mean, money is a huge thing, so throwing money at things seems to really help.
Well, sometimes, if it's used, it's used good. So,
lobbying and all that great
all that
stuff.
lobbying.
But
So, and that's I think one of the things that we have to work on is the psychiatric and psychological lobby. It's not as big as say the AMA is, and so. So that's good. So you used up all $5 billion to very good causes. Can you tell us a little bit about, do you run any groups currently? Any group therapies?
So I don't have any groups right now.
Okay.
We're not big enough in Winchester yet, so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Working on it. Working on it.
So, but if you did have a group, what type of group would you like to run if it was on the mental health side?
So I like doing a group that I call You Matter.
Okay.
And so I teach coping skills, but I also am teaching how to accept yourself where you are, and how to grow yourself in a way that you can be proud of who you are. Because a lot of times I've noticed, not just with children, but with adults, we try to hide it away, in our little shame box. But you see it more with kids where they're open about it, that I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I'm achieving enough. And I had this picture in my mind of where I'm supposed to be in life, and I'm not there, so I suck. I'm not good enough. I don't matter. So when I teach people, how about instead of that image, that beautiful golden image that we have in our head that we're just running for, that mindfulness.
That's right.
Let's get back into now.
There you go.
Why do we need that image? It's beautiful to have goals. Have goals. But stop putting times on them. You don't need that timestamp of I have to have, this 6-figure job and this house and be married by the time I'm 30 or it's over.
Yeah.
No. Every flower blooms on its own time.
And its own time. Every flower blooms. That's another thing. Good.
I have it on my window.
Okay. I really. So, the last question I have is there one taboo, or would you say one diagnosis that you feel is most often misrepresented in the mental health community? Say, for instance, like ADHD or just depression. Are there any of those diagnoses or things that DID, for instance, that may be misinterpreted by either the mental health community or the public?
So right now, I've been doing a lot of training on borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
And the reason is because I find it very interesting, but also because if you look and you reach out to, we'll say 50 providers, almost none of them are going to be willing to take you if you tell them that you have borderline personality disorder.
Really?
They don't want to touch it because it's too volatile, it's too dangerous. So actually what they're talking about doing, they were talking about that in Vegas when I went to that conference. In the new DSM, they're not going to have borderline personality disorder. It's going to be an attachment disorder with CPTSD, which is complex complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
Sorry. And the reason for that is because most of these personality disorders, when we look at any personality disorder, people go, shrink away.
It's that stigma. Yeah.
Exactly. That's that stigma.
Yes.
There's something wrong with them. But it always comes back to trauma.
Yes.
Those people develop those because they had really, really harsh trauma at a very young age, and their brain just wouldn't develop further.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the big ones for me, is that if you can't even find clinicians willing to deal with that, of course you're not going to have people in the regular world or society to say that's okay.
And I think the movie industry does not help, because everybody with a personality disorder seems to be like some
the axe murderer.
Yes.
Yeah. They're the ones that are killing
there wouldn't be a
people
movie, yes,
and doing
and really
all the
most people
things.
are not like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
I have family members that have, like my brother is schizophrenic, and when he's on his meds, he's totally fine. He's a normal person. There's nothing wrong with him. You would not look at him and go, oh, that's a schizophrenic. And so, it's just upsetting that he can't even vocalize, like that he has that identity. Because a lot of us, we take these labels to help build out our identities, to make us feel safe and feel like we can belong somewhere. But when you can't even express a piece of you, an identity that you're identifying with, you feel that shame and that guilt, and then you go inward, and then we lose connectivity. It all comes back to that connectivity.
Well, thank you, Julia, for being part of Outreach. Welcome to the team. We're so happy to have you, and I'm so glad I got to sit down with you today and do this podcast, get to know you better, and hopefully our patient population will get to know you better as well. I really see you as a shining star, wonderful personality, clinically very skilled and talented, and can't wait to have you continue to grow at Outreach.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's very sweet. I really enjoy getting to meet you today and kind of seeing, where you came from and how you got here. And I think that those are all really wonderful things and give you your own unique kind of spin on how to grow this whole organization.
Yes.
So and congratulations on how well you've done thus far on that.
Yes. Yeah. We've been in business now since 2014. We started off with like 100 patients. We have now, every month, we see around 2,500 patients every month.
Oh, my goodness.
So the outreach team is wonderful. We have great physicians, great nurse practitioners, great counselors and therapists and support staff. And we're always looking to grow and get better every day. And bringing on folks like yourself is only going to help us get to that goal. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Julie, you're in Virginia, but we're also in Florida. We have 2 clinics in Florida, in South Florida, hoping to expand there. We just opened a new clinic in Delaware. We are 14 clinics in Maryland, 6 clinics in New Jersey, and 1 clinic in Pennsylvania. So that puts us at 22 clinics and growing. We're going to open some new clinics in New Jersey coming up. So I'd love to be down in Richmond, Virginia Beach. And we're looking to partner with other facilities and continue to grow nationally. We know there's a shortage, and we're going to try to fill the need as many places as we can to fill that shortage of locations.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Addiction has destroyed my life and my family.
Drugs took my parents from me.
I've been a prisoner of addiction for over 20 years.
I feel like I'm trapped, like there's no escape.
But I'm ready to take back my life.
I'm ready to be happy.
I'm ready to be free.
Outreach Recovery. Freedom within reach. Give us a call or visit us online at outreachrecovery.com.